That'd probably help.
Yep. What up, guys? This is episode 7 of Double Digit Angler. We're going to be talking about many different things today. We're going to go into Max Lee's. Okay, I'm hearing myself. We're going to be talking about, you know, why Max Lee switched to a new canoe unlimited. We're going to talk about his biggest fish of 2022, how he caught it, the exact story, and we're also going to go into why he chose to fish with a trolling motor instead of a stern mount. And lastly, we're going to talk about his first experience, like hopping in a kayak, because what are we here for? We're here for the story. That's the most important thing. So how's it going, Maxley? How's your day so far? We already talked for like 15 minutes just trying to figure out your audio. So
Yeah,
how's your day so far, man?
we had our own little show behind the scenes already. Um, it's going great. Just like everybody else, just working a day job and fishing on the weekends as my passion. It's just what I love to do. So, I was chatting with Dominic on Facebook. I've followed Dominic, and we were just chatting, and he just out of nowhere told me to jump on the show, and I was like, by all means.
that's
By all
how
means.
that's how it
Yeah.
all starts, right?
Yeah. Spur of the moment, just jump on and, get it done. See what happens here.
Get her done. That's
Oh, yeah.
exactly that's the motto I go for all the time is just get it done. Like recently what I discovered is or I forgot who I got this from, but in the beginning of 2023, I really wanted to do things that suck first thing in the day,
Yeah.
because I know if I get those things that suck in the beginning of the day out of the way, which usually what doesn't suck that really puts into motion our what our eventually our goal is, our accomplishment is everything that we do that suck, usually end goal will actually achieve that goal. So that's what I put out for 2023, the vibes that I put out. um
Well, you'll get a kick out of this story. Um, since the year started, I've gone to my home lake where, I've caught these mega bags, I guess you could say.
yeah.
And
Uh-huh.
I haven't caught a fish for the past like 6 trips. I can't I can't find a single fish. The water's chocolate brown. Entire lake, it's chocolate brown. Guys in California, they know obviously we're hitting with all these really big storms, and the
Yeah.
lake rose like 60% or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's just I can't find a fish to save my life. But
Yeah, tell me about your last trip.
my last trip, I literally put up to the lake. I dropped my kayak into the water and I
Mhm.
ran down the bank like 3 miles an hour, just chunking and winding because the lake had rose like 7 feet the night before.
Yeah.
So, I
Seven
ran down the
feet
lake. Yeah, it rose 7 feet
No
overnight.
freaking way.
Yeah, it's
Overnight?
yeah, it's ridiculous. And the day before that was 15 foot just from runoff and the rains.
Did you try
So,
shallow at all or no?
oh yeah, I fished shallow. I spent like 6 hours graphing offshore spots. I didn't see a
Damn.
single fish. Yeah, I couldn't catch a single fish. So,
That's
and that's the
that's
suck.
tough.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
suck that you're kind of referring to, where, you know, I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna suck for an entire day and not catch a fish, but I'm still gonna do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, and not people know you know, I tell people every single time what is how do you get better as a tournament angler? I'm like, it's not that I'm better, it's that I have more time on the water.
yeah,
And I put time into practice every single time, and I understand what phase the bass are in currently for the giving conditions and etc. Um, but let's jump into more about like tell me about your biggest fish of 2022 or or starting from January 1st all the way till now. What is your biggest fish? And then dive deep into the story for me on that specific fish. And don't tell me the location because I don't want to get, flagged off from so many anglers out there. We get enough hate already as it is.
Nah, they'll be fine. The guys that are gonna watch this know exactly where it's at, so it's no secret. I
Just
mean,
don't
good
say
luck with
anything.
that. Yeah, I just won't say the name for the sake of the podcast, but
Yeah.
the guys that watch, they know exactly where it's at. Um, so two different spectrums. I caught my personal best in terms of weight this year, and I
Mhm.
also caught my personal longest this year. So the heaviest one was 13.3 in February, like mid February, like early pre spawn.
Okay.
And this was like way before I even thought about entering kayak tournaments and, even enter any kind of monthly tournaments of some
Yeah.
sort.
Mhm.
And then I caught that 13.3 and I went back every weekend since I got the 13.3. I spent hundreds of hours on there, and I've skunked multiple times. Just trying to follow the fish, trying to see what they want to react on.
Mhm.
Um, but
And you said you
that's
caught it in January,
February, mid
February,
February.
mid-February.
So,
So February
it,
15th, somewhere around there on a weekend.
yep,
Where was
February
it just you
15th.
on the water?
Um, there was, I believe, like six boats on the water.
Mhm.
One kayaker, maybe. I don't recall exactly. All I remember was I caught it in the back of a cove, and there was a
Yeah.
guy that was fishing on the main lake creek channel,
Yeah.
and I hate myself for doing this, but I put it on a donkey leash, and I trolled like a quarter mile out to his little John boat just so he could get a picture
Yeah.
and a weight for me because I didn't have a
Mhm.
scale and nobody was with me.
Yeah.
But I mean, the cool thing about that is I caught that fish, I released it,
Mhm.
and then midsummer, one of the other guys they caught the exact same fish, kind of like Dottie.
Yeah.
Everybody knows the infamous Dottie, huge, California bass from Lake Dixon. Everybody knows about it.
Mhm.
He had caught the same bass and it had spawned out, and it was 10 pounds, but it was
Oh
still
wow.
alive and it was still in the lake. Yeah, so he lost a whole 3 pounds just from spawning out and letting the eggs
So
out.
did it have a dot on it just like Dottie?
Yeah, it did have, as crazy as it sounds, it did
Yeah.
have a dot on the inside of the gill, kind of
Oh,
same exact
nice.
spot as Dottie. Yeah, it was wild.
Dude. That's like the
Yeah,
best feeling to have is knowing that you caught a fish, it survived after all the stress, and then someone else caught it. Like that's
yeah,
I feel like that feeling alone is matches up to actually catching that fish too. It's like knowing that fish is alive and well and it swam off. Like that's the second best feeling ever in the world is knowing that double digit is living for another angler to catch again. Hopefully you again, but
no,
hopefully someone else too.
hopefully not me because I want something bigger.
Oh,
Unfortunately,
you want something bigger? You don't think
yeah.
that thing's gonna you don't think it's gonna go like 14? Do you think it'll ever go 14 pounds?
So
How long was
it's
it?
crazy. I didn't measure it because during the time I didn't have a
Oh, okay.
catch board.
Oh,
So
okay.
this was like really, really early in my kayak career, you could say. So I didn't have a catch board. I didn't even know, how I was supposed to measure a fish. I didn't know anything in terms of, you know, tournament entering, who KBF is, who
What
Yakabass is.
kayak? What kayak were you in at that time?
During the time I was in a native slayer, a
The
12 and a half.
12 or
Yep.
12 and a half?
Yeah, the
Okay.
12 and a half max. So, the natives new kayak, I guess you could say. Their
Oh,
new
so you
series.
started off in like when you start off in your kayak experience, you started off with that boat?
Yeah. So I bought it used on Craigslist
Mhm.
for right around 2 grand.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
yeah, because I've always looked at kayaks and I've always wanted to get on a kayak because I
Mhm.
started out as a float tube angler. So
Yeah.
anybody that float tubes fish, they know that you kick all day long and you're going like half a mile an hour. So
Yeah.
you're running basically if the wind blows, you're going like quarter of a mile an hour is how rough it is on a belly boat or float tube.
Yeah,
So
it's not fun. My first bass tournament ever, I fished out of a Sonoma County Bellyboat Bass Club, and it was 45-mile-per-hour gusts, rainstorm, a storm. Like I'm talking about pouring rain. I had a leak in my waders. What else? I forgot my flippers. Right, it was
yeah,
chocolate, and somehow I finished like seventh place out of like 50 or 60 pontoon boats and float tubes in the combination. Um, Throwing a big spinner bait, and it was January, dude. Oh my gosh, it was like El Nino that day, but that was so ridiculous. But you said so you've done float tubes, and your first kayak ever was a Slayer Max,
yep. It
dude.
was a Flare
That's a
Max.
bad kayak for your first
Yep,
kayak.
yep. It's a great kayak. Well, you say bad, but it's a great kayak. I
I
mean,
mean, like that's a
yeah,
badass kayak.
yeah, yeah. It is. It was a badass kayak. I caught a lot of fish on it, honestly,
Mhm.
and it's just one of those deals where I started relying on the motor too much, honestly, and so that's why I didn't touch it. I never touched the pedal drive. I
We
mean,
were
and I
gonna. I wanted to dive in
yeah,
like how you fish with the motor, but
yeah.
before we do that, I really want you to like zone in to that exact story. Like, what was the conditions in the beginning of the day? How do you line up your cast? Did you look at your graph, or did you have your graph shut off? Did you have your motor on? Was it a long cast, a short cast? Tell me how that went down that day when
So,
you caught a 13.
so the day really started. I want to say on like a Tuesday. I caught the
Mm-hmm.
fish on Saturday, but it really started on Tuesday. Just
Mm-hmm.
looking at the weather report, you know, everybody that fishes, early pre-spawn, you understand when the weather warms up, these big ones are gonna push shallow and they're gonna try to
Mm-hmm.
start getting their freak on, as soon as possible to lay those eggs.
Yep.
And the first thing I did, I pulled up to the lake and I was like, man, it was like 78 degrees the entire week in mid-February, which is extremely warm, for February, even
Oh
in
yeah.
California. Yeah, in California, that's extremely warm.
That's like flip
So,
flop weather right there.
yeah, exactly. So I
Yep.
pulled up. I didn't pay too much attention to the water temp because I
Mm-hmm.
was out there the week before and I already knew that it was right around 52 in the mornings and it would spike up to around like 56, 57.
Yeah.
Um, it really doesn't mean anything, I believe. It's more of a trend, I think is more important.
Mm-hmm.
The warming trend is probably more important, so more so than the actual water temp. So I started my day right off a main lake creek ledge, just throwing a jerk bait to see if I could find any fish that pushed up shallow
Mm-hmm.
or are trying to push up shallow. And I caught
Yeah.
a couple buck bass in some brush in about like 8 foot of water.
Yeah.
And then I couldn't get a bite. I caught three buck bass in brush in about 8 feet of water. I ran down that entire bank and I couldn't catch another fish. So I was like,
Mhm.
okay, well, if the males have pushed up this shallow and it's such a bluebird sunny day, there's got to be a really big one shallow. So
Yeah.
basically, I tied on a row trap, or a red eye shad, which it was this exact color, a chrome, sexy shad, chrome, red eye shad.
Nice. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I have this without hooks just because for memories, honestly. It could probably still
Yeah.
catch a bass. But
Yeah.
I tied it on and I just started going to the back of the coves. I literally followed, paid attention to the grass, followed the creek channels that lead into the back of the coves.
Mhm.
And I just started fan casting. Motor was on, I don't know, like 2 miles an hour on an XI3. So it
Yeah.
was really loud. Um, I got to
You
basically where
said
the
2
creek channel,
miles an hour?
yeah, 2 miles an hour. So
That's
I
a
was ripping.
decent speed, right?
Yeah,
That's not slow. So
yeah.
you
It's
have like a what? Like an 8-to-1 gear ratio reel or a 7.5?
no, I was fishing on a 6.
A 6?
Yeah, I was burning.
Damn.
Yeah, I was just burning.
Oh, okay, I got it.
Yeah, I
So
was just
really
burning.
fat, really long cast and burn
Oh
all
yeah,
the way back to the
really long
boat. Okay.
cast and burned on 15-pound test.
Okay.
And I put up to this pocket, so there's a point that extends out, and it kind of creates a natural choke point in the creek channel before it goes
Mhm.
back into the bay, the back bay of the area. And on the left side of the bay, there's some stick ups, some slightly submerged brush pile, probably in like, I want to say like a foot and a half of water, honestly,
Yeah.
because I literally bombed the red eye shad out there and it hit bottom like immediately without, you know, it just hit bottom, just hit dirt.
Yeah.
There was no grass, there was no nothing. It was just dirt. And I just started yo-yoing it. I basically put up to the um the choke point. I killed the motor. I bombed it out there and I just ripped it off the bottom. And by the like third rip, it just hung up, just dead hung up. And
Yeah.
I was like, no, there's no way. I'm probably just stuck on a carp, or I'm stuck on some sort of stick up, because you can obviously see the stick ups coming along that little creek.
Mhm.
And he just started swimming sideways, or she started swimming sideways, and I just held on for dear life. Literally, I couldn't do anything. He just dogged me for like 2 minutes or so,
Yeah.
and it never came up to jump once until it got right next to the boat, and I just put my hands on it. I didn't even have a net.
Oh
That's how
wow.
prepared I was. Yeah.
Did that fish choke it down, that bait, or
Um, this is a controversial statement.
yeah.
It swiped at it. So
Yeah.
California laws, you're supposed to catch it in the mouth, but
Yeah.
he didn't have it in the mouth. He had it on the side of the
On the
side of the
face?
face. Yep,
Oh, okay.
on the side of the face.
What I
But
mean, he could have easily had it in his mouth and then one hook came off and the other hook was on the side of the mouth.
that's
But tell me
also very
this, like,
possible.
how many other fish did you catch with that bait? Like that had because you caught that 26-inch fish, right?
Yeah,
26 and a quarter? Was
yeah.
it on the same bait or no?
Uh, Similar style, but not the same
Yeah.
bait. It was, I actually have it here. I came prepared. Um, this guy, an LV 500.
Yeah.
This is the striped shad color.
Mhm.
If you look it up on Tackle Warehouse, it actually looks really translucent, but it's
Yeah.
actually more of a matte-ish kind of finish on it. So
Mhm.
it's not as translucent as it appears on the website. It looks
Yeah.
completely different, but it
How
was
did
doing
he
the same
eat
thing.
that bait?
He choked it. I
He choked
had,
it? Yeah.
yeah, I had that day specifically when I caught the 26 and a quarter. I had four of them that were over 22 inches, and they all
Mhm.
choked it. Yeah, They literally all choked it. They had it all the way in the back of their crushers. I basically had to dig it out. There was no way they were coming out.
When you brought that 13 in the boat, like, are you a quiet guy or are you a loud guy? Are you yelling like Michael Iaconelli or are you quiet?
I freaked out for about 10 seconds. I was My fishing day was done is the best way to put it. As in I didn't want to do anything else. Basically, I lipped it and I just held it in my hand as soon as I put it overboard, and I just sat there for like 10 to 20 seconds and I didn't do anything. I just sat there and just took in the moment, and then that was it. I didn't really freak out or really yell or anything. I
Mm.
just held it and then I put it on the leash, and I just first thing I thought was I need a photo, because this is definitely, my personal best. This is the
Mm.
biggest thing I've ever put my hands on.
Yeah.
So that was the second thought.
So like that was like probably one of the most monumental moments or events in your life is catching that 13, right?
Oh yeah,
Like, did you
definitely.
shed a tear? I mean, come on. This podcast is about being honest. Like, did you shed a tear or get some sort of like emotional arousement over this? Like,
No, honestly, more than anything at that moment, I just wanted to share it,
yeah.
because my buddies that also fish as well, they knew how hard I was grinding to catch a big one on that lake.
Hmm.
So I've been out there since the beginning of the year, and they were like, "Yeah, you kind of deserve it. You're out there, you know, Saturdays and Sundays from sun up to sundown, so you kind of deserved it."
Now tell me
So
this. Tell me this. Like, all your friends are saying like you deserve it. You're the hardest working guy right now in your city that's fishing on a kayak. You deserve it. Are you telling yourself you deserve it? What at that
um,
moment?
no, not at that moment,
Hmm.
because it's I'm extremely new to bass fishing in a sense.
Yeah.
So
Oh, wait. How long have you been bass fishing for?
so the start of my bass fishing career was probably about 3 years ago.
Oh, okay.
And what I consider extremely new is for the guys that are hardcore anglers, or the guys that really understand bass fishing.
Hmm.
I'm at the very early steps of understanding like bass patterns and bass movements.
Hmm.
So I'm still putting the pieces together. So when I say I'm extremely new to bass fishing, consider myself extremely new. Like, I don't have anything
Yeah.
figured out.
Yeah.
Everything I go out is no preconceived notions. Research, obviously, you kind of have in the back of your mind,
Hmm.
but everything's open game. You know,
Yeah.
I could go and fish, a lipless in 40 feet of water, and I wouldn't know any better. You know, one of
Yeah.
those kind of deals. Yeah.
Hmm. That I mean, 3 years though, man. You put in your work. I feel like you catch a 13, you did definitely put in work. I mean, when you told me that you're a new angler, I thought you started like a month ago before you caught that 13 or something. I'm like, man, that's crazy. If you only spent like 2 weeks on the water bass fishing and you caught that 13, then I would have been like, dang, dude, you didn't deserve that at all.
Yeah, I
But no, you
I would
put in
have
your
to.
time.
Yeah,
How many
but I mean,
times are you on the water? Like on average?
on average 2 times a week, because I work a
Yeah.
Monday through Friday job, so
Yeah.
I spend Saturday and Sunday on the weekends, and then summer days, longer days, I try to get 3 to 4 days out there, because get off a little bit early, jump on the water, and fish for 4 hours, three, four
So
hours.
so max like five
Yeah,
days a week, 4 days a week. I mean,
yeah.
4 days a week. Yeah. and then but
Yeah.
on the regular 2 times a week.
Yeah. On the regular 2 times. Yeah.
Would you say, like, for a tip for new anglers, or not new anglers, but someone that's trying to chase a personal best, would you say that you have to put in your time? You have to go as much, like, how many days a week do you think you recommend?
Um, I think it varies. It
Hmm.
depends on the person, honestly, in my opinion. Some people could put it together much faster. So,
Yeah,
they could go out for a day and they'll be like, yeah, they're on points, they're on trees or rocks or whatever. They could figure it out really quickly.
like Damien
Um,
Town.
yeah, Damien. Yeah. I don't want to talk about that one. It's gonna be a fun year fishing against him. Yeah. Yeah. It's gonna be rough.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, some guys just figure it out faster. I mean, I would say a week doing your homework and fishing and understanding where the fish kind of are. And
mhm,
then I would say bait selection is probably a big deal
yeah,
because honestly, you can go catch a giant on a Cinco or, on a Ned rig or
yeah,
something. It's
yeah,
possible, but
yeah,
there's just certain baits where it's known to catch big fish, like a jig or, a lipless or a deep diving crankbait.
mhm,
There's big fish baits for a reason.
yeah,
And, it's kind of why pros fish big fish baits for a reason. That's just kind
yeah.
of what it is. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely. I mean, if your goal is to catch, I feel like the biggest bass in the lake, you gotta be throwing something that for one, you gotta either throw something that draws them to your bait,
yep.
or something that matches their forage for sure.
Yep.
Compared to like a little worm. But not to say that, a drop shot can't catch a double digit, but more than likely you need to draw out those bigger fish and etc. Um,
Yeah,
Now that
definitely.
we finished the story of your 13 pounder, let's go back to that one your type of fishing. So you when did you decide to get the XI3?
So I decided on the XI3 before I owned a kayak.
Okay.
Simply because on a float tube, when I started fishing on a float tube, I liked dragging a football jig on rock piles.
Hmm.
And there's nothing more annoying than when the wind blows you one way and you have to kick the opposite way just to angle yourself to hit that rock pile.
Hmm.
So I wanted the spot lock ability, honestly, because I preferred fishing offshore and targeting specific structures like
Oh, so
isolated
you're
rock
so you're
piles.
not a bank banger. You're not a bank fisherman where you like going 2 miles an hour like you did when you caught that 13 pounder. Was that
Oh
just
no.
out of the ordinary? Like,
Yep,
oh,
that was just
okay,
out of the ordinary. I just,
okay,
for whatever reason, I just made the call to just cover water, and that's just
okay,
how that went. Yeah, I prefer targeting specific areas
right,
personally.
right, right, right,
Yeah.
right. Well, I mean, it was a good call. It was probably the best decision you made because
Oh yeah.
because I mean, you saw it happening. There was a warming trend that happened Tuesday, right? And
Yep.
the water would spike up to 57 degrees from 52, and
Yep.
the bigger females were moving up shallower.
Oh yeah.
So, and that hard cover was coming up. That hard cover was like kind of like a staging area. So, I wouldn't say it was all luck. I would say like you put your time in researching that the water temp was going to shoot up, and that there was a staging area there, and it was your time to shine in terms of like covering water instead of picking off an area like on a
Yeah.
float tube. There's not much you could do on a float tube if you didn't have a motor on the float tube. You would have to kind of like generally stick in the same area, right?
Yeah. In like a mile radius.
In a mile radius, yeah.
Yeah. Right by the
Right.
dock.
So like what so you wanted the XI3 right from the beginning. Um, that spot lock feature was the key.
Yep.
Do you have
I
any regrets at all? Like you want to go stern mount now?
um I've honestly been dabbling in the idea of getting a Torpedo or a Newport
Yeah.
just because, when guys are running 6 miles an hour, I
Oh
also want to
yeah.
run 6 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the only reason why.
Yeah, that's the reason why too. Like why I would
Yeah,
put a stern mount is like, especially when you have the unlimited, which we'll get into later. But like when you see, like I see Matthew Brannon and he has a Turquito in the back going 6.2 miles an hour with his foot steering, and he's like making donuts and etc. I'm like, dude, I want to do that.
yeah.
Like,
It it'll help me cover and scan water so much quicker instead of just sitting
oh
on the
yeah,
X-Actor remote. Yeah, there's
yeah,
pros and cons to each motor.
yeah. I mean, you could still do the side scan with the XI3,
Yeah.
but you'd be doing it at like 3.7, right? Or like, what do you do it at? Like 4.5?
Um, for me, I actually slow it down to two, just
Yeah,
because you get a better image quality on it.
at two.
But yeah, at around two, depending on your sonar settings, I get a
Yeah.
better image around like 2.5, 2-ish miles an hour. Um,
What are you running right now?
right now I am running a Lowrance Elite TI 9
Okay.
or 9-inch. Yeah. Um,
And
but yeah,
you have side
it's
scan, down scan.
yeah, side scan,
Okay,
down scan,
right on.
no live scope yet.
No live scope. But
Yeah.
is it in the works sooner or later?
Maybe, maybe. I'm hating.
Maybe.
Yeah, I'm hating fishing these highland reservoirs where these spots are suspended in 100 feet of water, and I can't see them on my side scan fast enough. So,
Did you watch my episode with Matt,
yes,
Matthew Brandon?
yes,
And he was
yes,
telling you that everybody was beating him because they were chasing the
yep,
spotted bass
yep,
out of nowhere, like in
yep,
100 feet of water, 150 feet. Yeah,
yep,
so like that is a problem. Like you are gonna get beat by people
yeah,
with forward facing with the spotted bass, particularly, right?
yep, with
So that's
spotted back.
yeah, that's the second time I've heard that. So
Yeah.
that's definitely another tactic that you can have to chase a spotted bass. But Garmin, you need to sponsor this podcast because it's coming up all the time.
Shameless plug.
Shameless plug, but I'm not sponsored
Yeah,
by Garmin at all. I
yeah.
wish I was. I would have had like two 10-inch graphs on my boat or
I don't blame you.
something. So the bow mount, no regrets.
No, no regrets. Only thing is speed. Um, Besides that, like I said, I like pulling up to one spot and dissecting it.
Would
So,
you ever go 80-pound or 100-pound thrust?
I probably would. I
24
actually feel,
volt.
yeah, I feel safe enough on that unlimited to
Yeah.
actually, if I really wanted to, I probably could throw an 80 thrust or 100 thrust on there.
You need
Be
to
kind of
talk to
sketchy.
Derek Brundle. Derek Brundle's like 24 volt, 80-pound, I think, or 100-pound. One
Oh,
of the two.
really?
Yeah, hit him up, Derek Brundle. You can hit up his IG. Shout out
Oh,
to Derek Brundle. By the way, he made the 10 house. Um, why did you make the freaking switch from your Titan where you caught that 13-pounder? And I saw it up on Facebook Marketplace. You're selling it for the cheap. Like
yeah,
how much? Like 1200?
yeah, 1200. Yep,
1200 for a Slayer
yep,
Max
yep.
12.5?
For Slayer Max. Yep.
Dang.
Yeah. Biggest thing I would say is by no means is native a bad boat. It's
Uh-huh.
just with how loaded I was always standing in water, and I didn't want to get boots.
Uh,
I always wear my Crocs out there, so I wanted to get up above the water,
yeah.
and that was the biggest thing, along with the fact that I didn't use the pedal drive anymore.
Yeah.
So it defeated the purpose. I mean, I see guys run Hobies. They
Mhm.
pedal for Hobie and then a spot lock with the motor. But
Yeah.
that wasn't, really quite my jam.
Yeah.
It was more of either motor to spot or, you know, don't motor,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Okay.
those are the main things.
That's a good
Yeah.
reason.
Yeah.
Well, let's interact with some of the people on the podcast right now since we're going live. This is kind of new to me, guys. Thanks for being patient. Okay, so we have Hung, or sorry if I mispronounce your name. What is your number one go-to lure?
Um, I would say a football jig.
A ball, half
Yep.
ounce,
Half ounce football jig, round rubber. Not sponsored at all. I like throwing the gosh,
Kitech.
what is
No,
no, compact football,
Big
Bass
Bear,
Patrol.
Bass Patrol.
Bass Patrol.
Yeah, yeah, I know what
Yep.
you're talking about. The round rubber. It's very thin.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
very
Thin
thin. It
round
has a
rubber.
lot of action.
Yep.
Yeah.
I prefer that's my number one go to if I can't catch a fish. I'm turning on a brown round rubber jig, football jig, and just
Go deeper
yeah.
into it. What color you're throwing? What? How many ounces?
Uh
Trailers.
half ounce brown generally. If I'm on clear water, I'll go brown purple if I'm on clear water.
Uh,
But brown is keep it simple. Brown.
you'll go straight brown.
Yep, straight brown.
Wow. Okay.
That's it. I don't do anything too crazy. I don't do flashy peanut butter and jelly colors,
Yeah. What
just
what
straight brown.
what is your trailer of choice?
Um, if the water is above, I want to say 59-ish degrees when it's much warmer, I
Hmm.
prefer a rage crawl or a crawl style with a lot of kicks in it.
Hmm.
If the water's cooler, I prefer the Yamamoto flapping hog around that
The
like
flapping
50,
hog.
yeah, around 50 to 55-ish degree temp. Yeah.
Now, is that
And then
something that you picked up on by Greg Blanchard videos, or is it you've been throwing the flapping hog way longer?
no, I've been throwing the flapping hog way before I even knew Greg threw it.
Oh,
Because
okay.
yeah, because I started short pounding with that's the start of my bass journey was throwing a football jig, and I messed with
Uh,
multiple kinds of trailers from the shore, and the flapping hog produces a slightly bigger bite, in my
yeah.
opinion, than the rage crawl. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I hear that a lot. Back in 2004, my buddy Rich Morgan, he would throw the flapping hog all the time. I got sick of it, but the reason why I got sick of it is because he was always catching fish on it.
Yeah.
He would skip it like Texas rig, or even he even did weightless on it, Texas rigged,
Hmm.
or he put it on a football jig and he caught a 9 or 8 pounder on it over at Clear Lake. But that bait is no joke. It's an underrated bait, I think, for sure.
Yeah. Not too many people really fish it. Everybody
No,
fishes the chunks.
it's a pretty big bait on a jig. Like it turns into a big bait jig, sort of.
Yeah, because if anybody knows, when you put on a trailer and you try to throw it, it
Mhm.
catches a lot of wind. So you actually sometimes you end up backlashing just from the wind
Right.
pushing back on it. Yeah, it's just a
It's a
bigger
lot of
profile.
volume too.
Yeah,
You know.
exactly. Yep.
Um, Okay, so we talked about the bow mount, and then so you made the switch because you felt like the new canoe floats up more.
Yep.
Okay,
It sits higher. Speed wise, it was slightly faster than the Titan or the Slayer with the bow mount on it.
tell me the
Just
speed difference. What were you going? How fast were you going on the Slayer Max?
So the Slayer, I was capping out right around
Okay,
4-ish miles an hour, and then on the Unlimited, I'm still messing around with the length of the prop, as in how high
mhm,
it's sitting in the water level or water
yeah,
column, and it seems like the higher it sits closer to the keel of the kayak, it runs a little bit faster. So I'm getting right around 4.5, give or take.
really. So
So
you're positioning it up higher, like by what would you say, a foot and a half higher?
yep. So you could actually audibly hear it it just doesn't catch air, but
Mhm.
you could hear the propellers basically
Yeah,
catching air almost. Yeah.
almost.
Yeah, and it seems to pull the kayak a little bit faster. So
Really
yeah, slight advantage.
nice. Are you ever gonna install dual motors going Newport vessel in the back or no?
Um, I might, cause I want a tournament fish this year, but
Okay.
you know, tournament scene it's generally one motor only. So I
Yeah.
might do it for fun fishing. Um,
What about
but
live scope? Is live scope first?
no, probably not. I don't think I'm gonna do live scope.
Nope.
Um, no, I'm gonna stick with basics and try to build the instincts before I video game fish, I guess you could say.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
gotta tell you though, if you want to learn the behavior of fish, having live scope, it teaches
Oh
you a
yeah.
lot about how fast these fish move. The old me back in 2004, I would throw a football jig on a rock pile, thinking, "Oh, if I cast there at 1 o'clock, they're not gonna, and if I don't get bit, I'm not gonna get bit at 3 o'clock." But a
Mhm.
lot of the times, bass like roam around so abruptly, and then they collect back on the rock pile, and then they're 30 feet off of the rock pile, and then they come back, and then they go away, and then they come back. It's like all a timing deal sometimes. It's crazy.
I I firmly believe it is timing
Yeah.
because even my big sack, it was all timing, honestly. I
Okay, well let's dive
yeah.
back into that. Dude,
Yeah.
so tell me about this crazy month of 100. Everybody tuned into this video because they want to know, how do you catch 121.7, was it 0.75 inches?
Yeah. 0.75.
That's your
Yeah.
biggest bag, monthly bag, right?
Yeah, ever.
Ever.
Yep, ever. I don't think it's ever gonna be beat either. But
um, and what month was this?
this was in October. This was
This
in October. Yep.
2022.
Yep, 2022.
Tell
And
me the lengths of the bass and tell me the pounds of each bass that you caught that went into that October bag.
so there were so many big ones. Honestly, I forgot. It feels like a sin to forget.
Mhm.
But so it started on Saturday. I caught a I caught a seven that was right around, I want to say it was 23 and a quarter inches
Oh
at
my
like 8 o'clock
gosh.
in the morning.
Okay, you're
And
pumped.
yeah, so I'm jacked. I'm like, oh yeah, the fish are munching today. So I
Mhm.
turned on the trolling motor and I just ran down and I basically caught a bunch of 17s ish. And then I got to one stick up that for whatever reason I decided to throw to it and I pulled out a 9 pounder, I believe.
Oh my
It was
gosh.
it was nine and it was 24 inches, I want to say. It was either 24 or 24 and a quarter. And
Okay.
then that ended that
Wait, is
day.
that the
I
same day?
Yeah, both of those were on the same day.
A 7 and
Within
a 9.
yeah, within I don't know, like an hour, I want to say.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, within an hour. And I continued catching them throughout the day. I mean, I caught tons of like 2 pounders and 3 pounders.
Yeah.
And then I submitted those 17, 18 inches. And then the following day, I went back and I pulled onto a high spot
Mhm.
and I literally took an LV 500. I bombed it out there and I ripped it over the high spot and then a 10 ate it. And that one was 26 and a quarter. And he
Wow.
ate it. And then I made two more casts and I caught a seven on the same exact cast as I caught the 10 on. And
The
that one
same
went
exact cast you said?
same exact cast, same exact angle.
And that was a
Uh,
24 incher or 23? 23, right?
that one was 23.
And it
So
was
it
a
was
7
7 pounds.
pounder.
Yep. And then 23. And then at that point, I had like 118 inches, I want to say. And then
Holy cow! Yeah.
with within those 2 days, it was like 118 inches. And
Hmm.
then fast forward about 2 weeks, the month was ending. They hit the full fall mode, and fish started suspending everywhere. And I literally went down the bank, and I was burning a lipless, but I was pausing it. So I was burning as fast as I
Burn,
can.
burn, 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 pause, burn, 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 burn,
Yep.
burn, pause. Yep.
And then my line just jumped, and I was fishing
On the
in, I don't know,
pause.
on the pause. On the pause, the line just jumped.
Oh, dang.
And then I leaned back to him. I pulled it in, and that was 9.5. It was nine and a
Oh
half
my gosh.
pounds,
How long?
and 24 and a quarter or 24, something like that.
And that was a
It,
9.
yeah. So
Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
it was magical. The bag was like 50 pounds almost, like
Dude, I was
40.
gonna put in
Yeah.
the title, I swear to you, I was gonna put how to catch a 40-pound bag of bass. 40-pound plus bag of bass. But then I was like thinking about it, I was like, no, that's a 24-inch average. Like, there's no way that was just 40 pounds plus. So you're saying you caught a 15-pound bag in 1 month?
Quite possibly. Quite possibly. In between
Uh,
Saturdays and Sundays,
Let
I
me
had a
calculate
10.
it. So
Between Saturdays and Sundays. Yeah, go ahead.
you had a 7, a 9, a 10, plus another 7, plus another 9. Wait, hold on. I'm not even doing this correctly. 7. Let me do it on my phone. Hold on. People are probably like cracking up. Like, what is he doing on his phone during a podcast? 7 plus 9 plus 10 plus 7 plus 9. That was 42 pounds. But so probably around, if you add the change, so
Yeah,
you're saying
mid
about
40s.
45 to 50, 45 to
Yep.
49.
Yep. I would say pretty comfortably, right around 45 to 50.
45 to 50. That's
Yeah.
unbelievable.
Yeah. It was wild. I still can't get over it.
Man. And my gosh, dude. Okay. So I don't know where to start because you have a 7, 9, 10, 7, and 9. Let's talk about that 10 pounder. Because you know me, you know that you don't, I mean, you'd love to catch a 9 any day or a 7 any
Oh yeah.
day. You can't take those fish for granted, right? Uh, but before we go into your 10-pound bass story, let's talk about you caught a 10 and a 7 in the same exact area, same exact cast.
Yep.
Are you a big believer that big fish school up together? Because you did say that they were the same exact cast, right?
So I believe they do, but I think it depends on the time of the year.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously this was in October, in the fall feeding frenzy. Essentially, they're gonna
Mm-hmm.
feed to fatten up for the winter. So quite possibly those bigger ones are probably roaming together in a smaller school of like 2 or 3 bass or something,
Mm-hmm.
and they were probably just partnering up to chase bait together or something. It
Is there a lot of shad there where you live?
um, so the secret on that lake, I personally believe, is they're into crappie, so they feed on crappie. That lake
Mm-hmm.
is well known to not have shad in it, so it's either crawdads, bluegills, or crappie.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe everybody wants to throw a crawdad pattern or a bluegill pattern, and I was fishing more of a crappie pattern
Mm-hmm.
for what it's worth. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how true it is.
Yeah.
Whether it affects anything, but that's just what I believe.
Yeah.
They're they're feeding harder on the crappie because there's no other.
Big
They
source of
substitute.
protein.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
substitute that for their shad, opposed to as substituting a bluegill for it.
Yeah.
It's because crappie school up harder than bluegill.
I feel like crappie they school apart and they also take less energy to chase down
Yeah.
because like they're just like they're still they just
Yep.
stay in one spot and they don't move usually,
Yep.
right?
They
So a
just
basket just
suspended. Mhm.
yeah they're just suspending. That's it.
Yep.
I absolutely believe that. Um, Now let's talk about how you caught that 10 pounder. Because, like I said, 7 to 9 pounders, we don't take those fish for granted. But a 10 pounder, that's a fish of a lifetime for sure. A 9 pounder is too. But breaking the tens is something not a lot of people have done. Like, tell us about that one story.
So with the 10, I've fished that lake a lot. So there's this high spot. And the way that I fish high spots is based off of wind direction. So personally, I believe depending on the direction of the wind, I like facing the wind and I like bombing into the wind. So I bring it basically into their faces. I'm assuming that they're
Mhm.
gonna stage up facing the wind. I don't
They're kind of like
assume
spot lock.
yeah.
They're
I don't
XI3 motor.
yeah. So I when I approach these fish on these high spots, I
Yeah.
approach it from the that would be the downwind side, correct?
Mhm.
Where I'm casting into the wind opposed to as casting with the wind. And I never make a cast until I line it up correctly. Because I just feel like the bigger ones will be staged up facing the wind where there's no immediate anything to, hinder their vision.
Yeah.
That's what I believe. So I pulled up and I made two casts and he hit it on the second cast. Just it was in like 4 feet of water during the time, and he was probably sitting right along the transition line, probably in about like 6 feet of water, 7 feet of water,
Mhm.
and
What bait were you throwing?
an LV 500, just a lipless.
Damn.
Yeah,
Damn, dude.
that's
I feel like
that's
that's the
the
forgotten bait. Like that bait's coming back hard though.
yeah. This year, all of my really big ones have been on an LV 500. Yeah, I couldn't catch anything bigger than 2 pounds on anything else. It was just all an
Mm.
LV 500 bite for me.
Are you catching most of your big fish like doing the pause, like burn, 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 pause, or are you catching them just strictly burning, or are you yo-yoing?
Um, I believe the biggest ones come from yo-yoing
Hmm.
and the pauses. So the burn and pause. Um, with that, it just depends on the mood of the fish. Every day is different.
Yeah.
Sometimes, you'll catch them yo-yoing, and then sometimes you'll catch them burning. Um,
Is there grass at your lake or no grass?
no, there's no grass. So all these spots that I'm fishing, you could throw a jig or shaky head because it's all just
Hmm.
hard bottom. It's not. There's submerged timber and brush piles, but during the time the lake was down so low
Hmm.
that there's no brush piles. It's just all just dirt and rocks.
So, what you're on your boat, you're on your kayak, you know that it's a warm trending week. The water's going to spike up from 52 to 57. What tells you, hey, I'm going to pick up an LV 500 or I'm going to pick up a football jig? Wh- What how do you decide between the two?
I think the biggest thing would probably be where the fish are at,
Mhm.
as in with seasonally where the fish are staged up.
Mhm.
Um, say if it's
Let's say if it's
warming up,
fall. Let's say if it's
if
fall
it's
actually.
if it's fall, I'll pick
Yeah.
up a LV 500 because the
Oh,
fish
really?
are yeah. Generally, I believe the fish will feed much heavier on shad.
Mhm.
Um, it's no known secret that bass eat crawfish year round,
Yeah.
so I believe they'll eat a shad imitator better during the fall than they will eat a crawfish imitator. At
So
least
you're throwing the jig more like during wintertime through spring, like
The
later January?
As of recently, I
Yeah.
throw the jig as a cleanup bait more than I do of
Oh, okay.
yeah, more, if I graph over and I see them on the bottom, then I'll throw a jig on it to see if I could get a bite. But for
Mhm,
the most part, I'm trying to burn as much water as possible to
mhm.
find the bigger schools of fish.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
I still prefer fishing a jig, honestly,
yeah.
but I can't slow down right now. I'm
Yeah,
just
yeah, you gotta cover water, man.
yeah, I just gotta cover water. Yeah,
Yeah, I really feel like in order to catch the numbers of fish, like you have to cover water. That's the thing about live scope too. It's like you just can't cover enough water if you keep on video game fishing and etc. You'll
yeah,
catch fish, but are they the right size? You know, I feel like you have to weed them out faster using a faster bait to get to that size for a tournament, at least. Sometimes drop shot works, you know, if you're on a mat and they're just absolutely killing it. Like if you're on a jig bite and you're catching them every other cast, you're not going to put it down, obviously, but in one spot. But if they're not biting like that, of course you got to cover water, figure out where they are. Um, we got a few other questions here. What I I wonder if all these guys, I don't recognize any of these guys. I'm wondering if they know you particularly. So one question we have is, what bait do you use when you're throwing 100 feet of water?
oh dear.
You ever fish 100 feet of water?
Um, Crazy story. There's a Highland Reservoir around here where I'm at, and I caught them on the bottom in 100 feet of water on a drop shot.
Are you throwing half ounce or what? Three
No,
eighth?
that was on a quarter ounce.
A quarter
I
ounce?
literally,
Okay.
yeah, I literally sat there for like 40 seconds just letting it drop down to the bottom.
And you just let it drop and then that was it? Do you work the
Yeah.
bait or you just dead stick it?
For drop shot, I don't like to work the bait.
Okay.
I actually like video game fishing with a drop shot. So
On
I
your 2D,
actually,
right?
yeah, on the 2D. So I
Yeah.
actually, instead of working the bait, once it hits the bottom, I just let it sit and just let the natural currents just blow it and move it around.
Dude, you're
And normally they pick it up before I even shake it, you know?
you dude, you're spot on.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
boy Ku Yang, man, that's what he does all the time. And he always
Yeah.
catches fish like that. So we got that out of the way. Thanks for tuning in, Ninja Blaze. I'm guessing you're a very nimble ninja that blazes up. All right, cool. We got hung low again. Hung very low. uh, what are your goals coming in 2023?
So the biggest one is I want to catch one that's over 13. That's the biggest one.
Yeah, that's gonna
Um,
be hard, brother. But I'm rooting for you, man. You better call me up as soon as you catch one.
well,
You
I'm
have
gonna
my phone
try.
number now.
Yeah, I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try to hit that 13, and then this year basically fish the local tournaments. Um, Not to win, but more to learn,
Yeah.
because I believe firmly that in order to learn, you kind of have to go where there's like-minded people and kind of see where
Mhm.
you stack up,
Yeah.
to see what you're missing out on, kind of deal.
Okay.
So yeah, it's more of a
Um,
learning process.
Yin Yang, we already answered that question. The jigs that he prefers throwing is brown, right? Brown or
Yep,
brown purple.
brown or brown purple.
Yep, and he
Yeah.
sticks to his he simplifies it. There's another question: what depths and colors? I'm guessing what depths do you fish the jig? And then we already talked about colors. What depth do you like fishing a jig?
I'll fish a jig anywhere from 0 feet of water all the way out to 45 feet of water.
Yeah.
Um, I think more than anything, it's just structure. You just got to fish structure where, the saying goes, you got to fish where you're going to lose baits to get bit kind of deal.
Yeah.
So, anywhere from 0 to 45, you know.
Right on, right on. Okay, last question of the night, man. It was great talking to you so far and getting to know you because believe it or not, guys, this is the very first time that Max and I have ever talked to each other face to face using some sort of like Skype or Zoom or StreamYard and etc. And actually, this is the first time we're talking verbally using audio ever as well.
Yeah.
So, uh, I mean, guys, it's podcast time, man. I'm getting to know people like Max Lee and Bailey all the way out in New York City, or New York Buffalo. So yeah, it's been great, man. It's been great getting to know you, Max. You're a stick, man, especially with that LV 500 and that red eye. Before we go, uh, I want to talk about. I want to leave the spot off for people that are still kind of cautious of getting into kayak fishing because I want to grow the community of kayak fishing. I want to be a positive influence in this kayak community. Uh, what was it like your first experience kayaking? Like, tell me talk about your very first time kayak fishing in your Slayer Max.
Um, Very first time I took it out to New Melones, and it
Mm-hmm.
was sometime in the summer. I want to say it was like July. I don't remember exactly when I got it, and it was wild. The fish were chasing shad, and it's it's amazing how mobile you can be on a kayak. Um, you don't have to have a bass boat, honestly, to catch fish. On a kayak, even without a motor, you could have either pedals or paddles. It's going to be
Mm-hmm.
slightly rougher,
Yeah.
but that first day I pulled up and I had, I don't know, maybe like a 15-pound bag or something. The first time on my kayak, 15-pound bag of spots.
Mm-hmm.
And it expands how much you can learn, essentially, you know, from patterning and working fish, and it's affordable. A lot of guys can't, especially on the West Coast. Everybody understands gas prices are, you know, $5 a gallon, $6 a gallon.
Yeah.
You don't have to pump gas in the old kayak. You just, paddle or pedal.
What do
So,
you tell someone like that's on the edge about buying their first kayak for, you know, what are some alternatives to, or not alternatives? Where can people find, a bargain for a kayak? Let's say if they can't afford a brand new one, where can they go to look for one?
yep, I would say go to Facebook Marketplace, go to Craigslist, you know, um, join um, the local kayak tournament trail groups,
Hmm.
because obviously sponsored guys, they get new kayaks every year, so they're going to try to sell their old kayaks. You might be able to pick up a really good kayak, say a Hobie, for a really good price
Yeah.
if you're really trying to get in a kayak.
Yep.
you know and it's decked out.
When you got your first kayak, where you're just like, "Oh, this is me," like this is where I'm at. This is where I'm gonna be at for like a few years, at least a few years.
Oh yeah, when I got it, I knew it's where I was going to be. I mean, I would still like to get a bass boat just
Hmm.
because you could cover so much more water.
Yeah.
But I think there's just something about a kayak where you're out there by yourself and you don't have the option of running 50 miles down the lake to go fish one point and then run another 50 miles down the lake to go fish another point. You're
Mhm.
really stuck just trying to figure out the fish in your small radius.
Yeah.
So, I personally I prefer dialing down the small deals.
You kind of feel like you're a hunter more too, huh? Like
Yes,
that's what
I would
I
say so.
feel.
Hmm.
Like I watched that IG reel of Brandon Polnick in his Sims gear,
Hmm.
and they do more hiking. I've never hunted in my life, but they do more hiking than they do hunting, right?
Yeah,
And it's the same kind of deal as like when you're searching for bass in a kayak, you can't cover much ground. You can only cover much ground as, let's say, your battery or your pedal or your paddle. So it's
yeah,
kind of like you're very limited into what environment you can go to, but it's a lot more wild. And then lately they've been launching all those kayaks with the camo, the
yeah,
camouflage color,
yep. For
and
the
those are
hunters.
cool. Yep, for the
Hmm.
hunters.
Yeah,
And so it's like I don't know, there is something about kayak fishing. And
yeah,
I like how said Alex Rudd was saying like he likes that there's not an elite series in kayak tournaments because it allows you to kind of um, compete with the best
yeah,
at affordable cost or affordable expense. Like you don't
yeah,
got to be a millionaire to go fishing.
yeah. I mean, look at Taz Moore.
Yeah,
He fishes the co-angler side of the Bass Nation stuff, and he's won a couple co-angler tournaments.
yeah,
So I mean, he's a stake in himself.
yep.
Damien is a stake. I'm pretty sure if he gets on a boat,
All
it's gonna be
these,
hard.
all
Yeah,
these, well, Hmong and Laos homies. What
shout out
nationality are
to him.
you, Max?
I'm home.
Hmong.
Yeah, I am home. Yeah,
Nice,
so
nice.
I'm
My
well aware of it.
mom, my mom
Mhm.
is Hmong and Laotian.
Oh, really?
Yeah, my dad's Vietnamese, but I get the my last name from my dad, so not a lot of people
Yeah.
know about that.
Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
What up, Dave Nunez? Thanks for tuning in. Thanks to everybody tuning in. Daryl, we're out of California. I don't know if Max Lee wants to share where he's from. Let's just say he's in the middle of California. I'm in SoCal. Arnold's asking, do you do any saltwater fishing or spotted or spotties?
I used to. I used
Used
to
to.
because I used to live in San Diego, so I did used to do a lot of
Nice,
saltwater fishing. But
nice.
nope. As of
What
now,
city
it's
did
all
you live
about
in San Diego?
San Diego. I was in Linda Vista.
Okay, I was in Lemongrove. I was born in San Diego, so that's kind of cool. What year were you
Yeah.
there?
I was there most of my life. Kind of jumped back and forth between
Okay.
Linda Vista and other places, but
Oh, right on.
yeah.
Fishing
So,
the
brother,
fishing community is small over there, but it's like it's hyped over there.
the community's small, but the guys
Yeah.
that do fish are
Yeah.
hardcore, hardcore
Hardcore,
fishermen.
bro.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Hardcore.
they literally do it on their time off. That's all
Yeah.
they do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hung Lo says, do you buy or do you build your make your own jigs? But you buy, right?
I do actually make some of my own jigs. Not for sale, but
Yeah.
just it was the learning curve.
Round
Um,
rubber or silicone?
all round rubber.
Okay.
Um, if anybody's listening out there, there's actually a secret. As crazy as it may sound, I like a black and green pumpkin round rubber jig because it looks very close to like a bluegill or a sunfish. So
Does it
you can fish
work?
that just, oh yeah. Barry S, the TOC for Yakka bass.
Hmm.
I fished it and I had four of my seven keepers. I didn't catch a limit. Were on a swim jig on a
On
black
the
and green.
black and green,
Yep.
and
With
not which one's the highlighted color? Is it the green pumpkin or the black?
so it is the green color. So that one's on top.
Oh, okay, so black is
Yeah.
the majority of the color.
Yep. So I
Oh
put like a
wow!
couple strands of green. Yeah. So
All right,
just something.
Taskmall, what you gonna do? What you gonna do, Taskmall? Just kidding.
Yeah. He's gonna build it. If he listens to
Oh,
this,
he
he's gonna
is.
build one.
Are you gonna build one Boondock Baits? So we have two jig makers that I know of. And shout out, rest in peace. We had Todd Iwamoto back in 2004. I lost him. His family lost him. He was a great angler. He was his name was Todd Iwamoto, and he tied me several round rubber jigs as well. And I would go with brown and orange or brown and purple. Those were my two key jigs. And he basically him and Travis Tarver back then taught me all about football jig fishing, and it used to be a huge staple in my arsenal, but I don't do it as much. But if you're listening, Boondock Baits and Taskmaw jigs, are you guys gonna make a green pumpkin black jig? That's the big question. All right, we got a few more colors, and then we're gonna get out of here. I mean, not a few more colors. We got a few more questions. What kind of retrieval for a jerkbait?
Um, just like fishing the lipless, I burn my stuff. So I twitch my stuff a lot. Like
Twitch, 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 twitch. Maybe pause
yeah,
here and there.
yep.
So
I
you
I
keep on
pause for a
moving.
split second. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I keep it
Okay.
moving. Um, and I don't slow down.
Yeah, it's the same
Not
way
at all.
here. I don't really slow down with the jerkbait. Like when I pause, it's literally just taking a break real quick between the pauses.
Yep. Yeah, I don't slow down at all. I just
Yeah.
keep ripping until I get bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Daryl asked where we're from. We already answered that. Thanks for tuning in, Daryl. Jerkbaits are new to me. Would love to see that answer. We already talked about that. Just keep on moving that bait. Just twitch it as much as you can. Pause it if you need a break. Fish it over submerged brush in clear water. That's what I usually do. Do you have any more tips for him?
I would say in dirty water,
You
don't
said
get a
dirty water
flat.
too?
No, in dirty water, don't
Yeah.
get a flat-sided jerkbait. Get a more rounded jerkbait,
Oh, okay.
because the jerkbait wobbles more.
Give
So
him a certain jerkbait he can start out with in dirty water.
it was, oh dear, a Smithwick, I believe it's what it's called.
Oh, I think man, Smith. Yeah, I know what you're talking. Is it a rogue? No,
Yes, a rogue. The
a
Swift
rogue.
McRogue. Jason Christie fishes those a lot. You want to the
You said
because
it's
it's
a
like a mix.
jerkbait, right?
Yeah, it's a jerk bait.
And you said it's a rogue. Yeah, Smithwick rogue jerkbait.
Yep.
Suspending, right?
Yeah, suspending.
Do you use
Um,
a rattling one or no? No rattles.
I, I prefer a rattle in dirty water,
Okay.
but yeah, relatively clean water. I don't think you really have to have rattles.
Okay.
But
Clean water. What jerkbait are you throwing?
the 110 plus one,
Okay.
just like everybody else.
Yep.
No secret.
I throw the +2 as well, man. +1 and +2. I rarely throw the regular 110.
Yeah, I never throw the regular 110 either. It's
Yeah.
always the plus one.
You put
Yeah.
any lead on your hooks yet? So that you
Um,
can have the bait slow sink a little bit?
yeah. I don't do that with my jerk baits. I do that with my deep cranks. I do that with my deep
Ah.
cranks.
The next episode, when you catch that 14 pounder, we could talk about that.
Hopefully.
Yep.
Yeah.
Daryl Sanchez purchased my first kayak last week, PA 360. Congratulations on that. Haven't touched the water yet. Man, what are you waiting for? What do you got to say for him, Max?
Um, the weather sucks, but go fishing.
Yeah, go fishing, man. Ninja Ninja Blaze, do you use a Ned rig? If so, do you put the bumpy end first or the rib side first?
So I think that you should rig it so the bumpy ends on the outside of it. But I don't think there's a wrong or right way to rig a Ned rig, honestly.
Okay, cool. And that was where is that? Oh, that was Ninja Blaze again. PayPal is another way you can actually purchase a kayak as well. PayPal Finance. There's another one I'm forgetting, but we can.
Affirm,
Yeah, Affirm. There
affirm,
you go.
yeah. hmm
You could. I wouldn't go. Hey guys, like whatever you do, don't go through Affirm and pay like 20% interest rate. Okay, don't do
Yeah,
that. If you're gonna do it, have the money and then maybe do like a 6 month promotional 0% interest rate. Okay. Be responsible, guys, with your money. All right. And if you can't afford that, just save it some money and buy a used one. Um, do you sell jigs? Are you gonna sell it or no?
no, I have no desire to sell jigs. It's a lot of
Okay.
work tying jigs, so I'm good. I'll just make a
Okay.
couple for personal use.
All right. Right on. We already talked about favorite jerk baits. Don, the homie Don Rossi or Rossi, like the motorcyclist. Do you fish? Don? Will you fish a Yakabat event this year? Hey, if I drive up to wherever Max Lee lives and he pays for my gas and we go both carpool to a Yakabass event, I'll go fish a Yakabass event. That's for sure. I'll fish
Okay.
with them. Actually, that would be fun if we did like a little road trip together for one of the Yakabass trips. I gotta introduce you to my homies, Kayak Ditch Day. They're a fun group of anglers.
Oh, definitely.
Favorite jerk bait, Max. We already talked about jerk baits, but what's your favorite one?
Um, the one that I've caught most fish on is the 110, and the favorite is probably the Smithwick Rogue.
That's your
That's
favorite
probably
one?
probably my favorite. Yeah, because I jerk bait in dirty water a lot. So
Oh, okay.
yeah,
What color are you going with in dirty water?
just the shad colors, so white and black back, basically. Nothing
Okay,
too crazy.
nothing
No
crazy.
clowns. Yeah, no clowns. No, chrome
So
colors. Yeah.
you're kind of like me. You keep things simple.
Find the fish and they'll bite.
Yep, shad pattern, brown jig, maybe brown purple here and there. Maybe a
Yeah.
black chartreuse, but black green pumpkin,
Green
but
pumpkin.
very rare on
Yeah.
specific locations.
Yeah. Certain conditions.
Let me see. We're not going to talk about what David said because he's naming out a lake that we kind of want to keep a secret. Uh, and then there's how much experience should one have before entering a tournament?
Um, you know,
It's a good question.
it really is a good question. I
Yeah.
don't I don't think you could ever have enough experience before you enter a tournament, because if you're just fun fishing, you kind of don't really understand the time crunch until you're actually fishing in a tournament.
Hmm.
And you kind of, even if you set an alarm for 8 hours, it's kind of like a drug, honestly. It's like the thrill. You don't get the thrill of, catching a 12 incher is giant, basically, on a really tough day. You don't
Yeah.
understand that feeling
Yeah.
until you fish a tournament.
Until you lose one during the TOC and lose $5,000 Hobie PA14,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
I did. um,
So
yeah. So, do you have to have much experience, or you say just dive right in?
I say if you're comfortable with seasonal patterns and you feel like you could catch fish consistently, I'll say just jump in.
Yep.
Kayak tournaments really aren't that expensive. There's
Yeah, Daryl. If there's one thing I have to say, Max has a good point, but I would say pick your tournaments wisely. I would say stick locally first. Don't invest too much in travel expenses, and yeah, stick to your local tournament circuit first, and try to go for a tournament that's less than $100, because it is gambling, guys, at the end of the day.
Yep, it really is.
So stick with to a smart wager. Like I'd say like a $50 tournament or something like that for your first tournament. And stay local. Don't drive out like 7 hours or 3,000 miles away for your first tournament. Stay local. Ninja Blaze, what's your new thoughts on the River to Sea glide bait? Do they make a glide bait?
I think he's talking about the wake bait.
I think he's talking about that wake bait too. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's talking about that wake bait. Um, right now it
Do you own
sucks.
it?
I don't have a fish on it.
Do you own
I
it?
Yeah, I do
Oh,
own one. Yeah, right now it sucks. I haven't caught a fish on it, so it sucks. But I'm pretty sure it works.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure it works. I would pick your time. Honestly, if I were you, I would go to large body of waters where like they haven't seen that bait before,
Mm,
and fish at nighttime
yeah.
with those wake baits. We're gotta get out of here probably in 30 minutes. So let's finish these questions. Dave Nunes wants us to finish Slay Nation October 7th. We will think about that. I'm gonna have to talk to Max, my boss, about that. See if we can go, because he's my gas sponsor. I'm just kidding. Co-angler first on the boat. Now I've got a kayak fever. $7 later. I was a co-angler first on a boat. Now I have a kayak fever. $7 later. Oh, that's tough, man. Ninja Blaze, yeah, that thing. Dave Nunez, where are you from? Where are you from, Max?
So either you could determine it as Clovis, California, or Fresno, California. Same
Okay.
area.
Okay.
Yeah, Central Valley. Yeah.
I'm from K Town, Los Angeles. That's where I'm out of, where no one wants to host a tournament near here. Favorite topwater?
I don't have one. A frog. A
Yeah,
spro frog.
same here.
Yeah.
Frog is probably my favorite.
Yeah.
Preferred brand line, rod and reel.
I fish a lot of Seagar. I fish a lot of Shimano products.
Mhm.
Um, honestly, I think more than anything, I think line is probably more important because the rods are just so great nowadays that just go with your confidence, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wait, so what
that's
line do you throw? You said Seagar?
yep, Seagar.
Okay.
Red label, generally 15 pound everywhere I go. Drop shot on 15 pound.
Really?
Yeah,
You drop
drop
shot
shot.
a 15 pound?
Yeah, drop
Damn.
shot on 15-pound leader. Yeah.
Damn. That's crazy. 15 pound jerkbait too? Are you throwing 15 pound with jerkbait?
Yes, sometimes. Generally,
Yeah.
generally yes. Generally,
Wow. That's something
yeah,
new to me. Man, you're fishing stained water.
yeah,
Huh.
yep.
And you're
It's
fishing
like
against big bass too.
yep. It's like a
Yeah.
foot of visibility. So
What pound test were you using on your LV 500 when you caught the 10? You caught an LV 500 with you caught the
yep,
10 on it?
yep. 15. Everything was 15.
15 pound red label?
Yep. Red
Dude,
label.
guys, go check out Red Label Cigar. They're like one of the most affordable. I'm not sponsored at all, but Red Label is what I was had what I used during tour of 2022, and it's super cheap, and it's a fluorocarbon. The only thing I recommend is go Red Label from 12-pound test and up. once you go 10-pound test and lower, I like to stick with the higher end brands, like not just brands, but the higher end lines like Sunline, FC Sniper, and etc. I think that's it. Max, it was great having you on the podcast. And like like many others on the podcast, you were kind of an impromptu or just a random one. I was just like, man, why didn't I think of that? Max Lee is a story that needs to be told, needs to be shared on the Double Digit podcast, especially with your 10 and your 13 pounder from last year. I mean, that's crazy. 2 sevens, couple nines, a 10, and a 13 all in 1 year.
Well, thank you for having me on. But it was more than just a 10. I had 4 10s for the year of
Four
last year.
tens.
Yeah,
Damn.
I had 4 10s and multiple eights and sevens and nines. But
All right, before we go, one last question. What is your top 3 baits that help you catch a double digit bass?
a deep crank, so a 6XD of some sort, anything around 15 foot, I would say 15 foot, 15 feet diver,
Mhm.
some sort of lipless, and a football jig. Those would
Did
be
you
the
catch
top three.
a double digit this year on a football jig?
Not this year. This year I had a 8.5 on a football jig,
Yeah.
but most of them were came off reaction stuff. So a crank, lipless.
Yeah.
So
All right, guys. Well, thanks again, Max Lee. I won't get it wrong again.
no
Max
worries.
Lee. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it and hope we go fishing soon.
Hopefully I'll see you out there.
Yep. Stay tuned for the next episode, guys. I don't know who I will have on next. You never know. That's the good thing about my episodes. This is the first time we're going live, which is crazy because it was pretty smooth, other than not hitting that live button.
Yeah, yep.
but
I won't say anything about that.
the next time I'll hit it. I'll hit it and I'll remember. Just for you, Max.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, Max. I'll talk to you later, man.
All right,
Turning
have a
out.
good one.
Late. Oh wait. Before we go, if all of you guys reach to the end of this podcast, please go to my Apple or Spotify and give me a rating. I don't care what it is, just give me a rating. Anyways, I'll catch you guys later. Thanks, Max. Bye.
Bye.